Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's free workshop. My name is Ileana. I'm a Ayurvedic practitioner based in Reston, Virginia. And this is, I think, the fifth workshop in this free series that I've been offering on my Facebook page for the past week or so. And we have one more coming up this Saturday that I hope that you'll join me for. And like you, I've been at home for about a month now. And I wanted to just share with you some of the things that I have found in my kitchen that are very interesting for immune support. Some of them are strictly from the Ayurvedic toolbox and others not necessarily. So, you know, my kitchen is not necessarily only Ayurvedic in the sense that I don't make, you know, traditional Ayurvedic dishes. I actually try to incorporate a lot of different things from different traditions just because that's my palate. And also it's a way to introduce different tastes into my cooking routine. So a lot of these things you probably already have in your kitchen. I haven't been shopping in a few days and I was able to round up some of these things. So I'm sure if you looked in the back of your pantry, you will also be able to find a lot of these things. So at the end of the workshop, I'll give you a recipe for an Ayurvedic tea that has a lot of the ingredients that we're going to be discussing, and also it's not just a good immune support, but they actually contain herbs that target the respiratory system in particular. So, you know, that is kind of at the forefront of our minds these days, just any way that we can support not just our immune system, but specifically our respiratory system and give our lungs a little bit of love. So let me start by showing you, of course, ginger, which I know that you are all familiar with. Ginger is definitely a staple in my kitchen. I use it a lot for cooking and also as a just in teas, especially in the winter when I need a little bit of extra heat, but also when I'm under the weather and I need some extra support. My ginger is one of my go-tos. So like all things in nature, we always, when we're talking about you know, the healing properties or the medicinal properties of a substance, we always refer to the whole. The reason I say this is because in modern wellness, it's become very common to extract a certain substance from the whole. A good example of that is curcumin, which is a substance found in turmeric, which, you know, after undergoing lab tests and such, they found that curcumin was, you know, for lack of a better word, the best part of the whole rhizome of turmeric. Which, yes, that's true, but in the traditional sense, and especially when it comes to Ayurveda, the actual medicinal, the power of the medicine we consider to be in the whole substance. So I just want to clarify that before I go into the talk, because I'm going to be, you know, especially when it comes to ginger and garlic, I'm just going to be talking about a specific compound, which is the properties that we are most concerned with. But always, you know, do not underestimate the healing power of the whole substance itself. So when it comes to ginger, the healing substance that we are familiar with is called gingerol. And gingerol is where the antiviral properties are found. So of course that is, you know, probably the most important property that we would be concerned with today, just given the situation that we're living. So of its many, many medicinal properties, this antiviral property is perhaps the most interesting for us now. In the Ayurvedic sutras, ginger has a very, very high esteem. It is revered as one of the most complete medicines. As a matter of fact, there is a sutra that says that everybody should have a little bit of fresh ginger before lunch and before dinner. And this is due to its, as I mentioned before, you know, it has heat. So this is due to its ability to stoke our digestive fire. This is due to its ability to really ignite Agni. So how do you eat it fresh? The easiest thing to do is, how I do it is I usually take a spoon and I start scraping away. So you would do that to scrape away the skin, which you don't have to discard if you don't, you know, if you don't want to. I try to take advantage of as much of the plant as possible. That's true whenever I'm, you know, regardless of what I'm preparing. So I don't usually get rid of the skin. Of course, I wash the rhizome thoroughly first. And but you can just start using the spoon to kind of peel away, and it gives you, what it gives you are these thin strips of ginger. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to use the grater, and you just take the end of the rhizome and just start grating away, and it gives you a much finer end result. And it also gives you a little bit more of the juice of the ginger. So it depends on your taste, really. So one nice thing to do with that grated ginger is once you grate it, you can add a fresh lemon juice to it. That will keep the ginger, and it's kind of like a way to preserve the ginger. It'll keep for a couple of days. And what you can do is you can scoop some of that ginger out. You can put it in your warm water and drink it as you know, as a tea. Just a little bit goes a long way. You just take like a little shot of it. You can take that and add it to your food when you're cooking. You can also take it to garnish your food. And again, not only are you getting the, you know, the healing medicinal effects of the whole ginger, it's also a really good way to stoke the digestive fire. So that's a good way to use ginger at home. Some other things to keep in mind about ginger is that it really does work on different levels of the digestion. It really helps with assimilation. It helps to carry nutrients through the different tissues of the body. So it's a good way to you know, to it's like a vehicle for nutrients. So when you mix it with your food, you also get that effect. It's like it's nourishing your tissues. So that's ginger. Again, it's very much revered in the Ayurvedic literature. There's lots and lots and lots of other uses for it, of course. Ginger, I think, is you know, it's like a staple in any Ayurvedic kitchen. It's definitely a staple in any Indian kitchen. But whatever use you give it, you definitely want to keep in mind to use the whole. And fresh is always better. We live in a part of the world where ginger is available pretty much year round, right? It's also very easy to grow at home if you want to try. I recently saw somebody giving a tutorial about how you basically, you don't even have to wait for it to sprout any roots. You literally just bury it in the soil in a pot, and within a few weeks you should have the beginnings. You know, it'll start sprouting on its own. So it's apparently very easy to grow as well. So we have that advantage. The next substance that I want to cover is one of our favorites, which is garlic. And garlic is, I think, one of those things that's really widespread in, as far as I know, like, you know, many different cuisines from different parts of the world. I don't know the exact origin of garlic, but I'd be interested in finding out how it made its way through different cuisines around the world. And I think, you know, whether you like garlic or not, you certainly can find it in a lot of different types of foods. So again, the whole substance has a lot of you know, medicinal compounds, and one of the best known medicinal compounds in garlic is called allicin, A-L-L-I-C-I-N. And allicin is found, or it's activated when the fresh garlic is crushed. So in order to get that medicine out of the garlic, it has to be crushed. However, it's lost when it is heated. So when you crush the garlic, as soon as you put it into the pan to cook, unfortunately, it loses that compound. So I came across a really interesting tip that says that once you crush it, just let it stand for about 10 minutes. That retains the allicin, and then you can cook it. So you know, try to plan your cooking so that you can set it aside while you prepare other things. So that's one way to retain the medicine in garlic. Now, from an Ayurvedic point of view, garlic is interesting because it is probably the only, if not, you know, very little of the substances that have this all tastes. It has 5 of the 6 tastes. So it has all of the tastes except salty. And if you know anything about Ayurvedic nutrition, you know that the key to retaining or to obtaining the nutrition from your food, from your meal, is by making sure that all of the 6 tastes are incorporated in each meal. Now, this is very complex, and it's you know, it's a separate workshop, but really just to know that these tastes are important because they correspond to different parts of the digestion. So when you incorporate each of the 6 tastes in your meal, you're basically supporting proper digestion, because this is what the physiology of the body is expecting, right? So each of the tastes trigger, the taste buds are found on the tongue. So each of those tastes trigger a specific part of the digestive process. So unfortunately, in our standard American diet, and certainly even, you know, most Western diets do not incorporate the 6 tastes in our meals. We tend to favor like overly processed sweet or overly processed salty, and we forget about really important tastes like bitter and astringent. Bitter and astringent are the key to promoting our stool. So that is probably one of the reasons why you know, digestive issues are so prevalent in the West, is simply because we don't incorporate the 6 tastes. So garlic is a really cool way, right? It's a really easy way. I always joke when I teach my cooking classes, I always joke that if you are not really sure how many tastes you have in your dish, you just throw in a little bit of garlic and salt, and then you're all set, right? So that is that really speaks to the power of garlic, and it speaks to why garlic is so important in the Ayurvedic medicine toolbox. Apart from that, of course, it also is really good for igniting digestive fire. So a good formula for when you're feeling under the weather, when you feel like you're coming down with something, a really good formula is to mix ginger and garlic together. I usually, depending on how under the weather I am, I usually just crush both, juice them, put a little drop of lemon juice, and probably I would add a little bit of black pepper, and then I'll just drink it. And I do that like 2 or 3 times a day. So you have both, you know, the antiviral effects of both of those substances. Garlic is also antimicrobial, and it's good for balancing vata and kapha. And again, because of the added heat, if you are a overheated pitta, you probably want to, you know, not do too much garlic. Another thing about garlic that I get asked a lot is, you know, whether garlic is appropriate for yogis. And yoga has a little different view of garlic than Ayurveda. Ayurveda, of course, as I said, sees it as a very, very highly powerful medicine. In yoga, the concern is that garlic and ginger also to a certain extent, they can be mostly rajasic. Rajasic is this quality of the mind that leads to overactivity and agitation. So garlic can promote those qualities, which is not a bad thing, right? Depending on where you are in terms of that scale of the qualities of the mind. A little activity might be what you need, but if you have concerns about how it's going to affect your you know, your meditation practice and things like that, then definitely listen to yourself and know what your limits are. But that does not take away from the importance of having something like garlic, you know, especially when you're healing or when you're trying to have like a more preventative regimen. And I think at a time like what we're living now, I think that's pretty important, right, to keep in mind. So everything is always balanced out, and everything always comes down to listening to yourself and what you think is appropriate for you. One other thing to say about garlic is that it is a natural aphrodisiac, which is, again, that's why its main guna, its main quality is it's rajasic. So just keep that in mind. All right, so next is my favorite, honey. I love honey, and I have honey pretty much 6 days out of 7. I think I have it a lot, usually at breakfast time. And honey is one of those substances that unfortunately has become very industrialized, and it's very difficult to find really natural, local, raw honey, which is what you should be aiming for when you go shopping. So if you go to the supermarket and you go down the aisle where all the honey is, you see that all the honey is pretty much the same color. It's this like amber, sort of transparent color. and that is a sure sign that it has undergone heat. So in the industrialization of honey, what they do is that they heat it, and it becomes more liquid. So that is definitely not the type of honey that is talked about in the ancient texts. But you know, that's not to say that that honey is bad. I think it's important to note that it's just that if you can find more raw, organic, local honey, that is going to be better. So the interesting thing about honey is that it is the easiest carbohydrate to digest, and that's a good thing, because what that means is that it's a really, really good source of energy. So it's a good source of energy that's not going to you know, affect your digestion. It's not going to make your digestion heavy. And of course, it has all of the benefits of a carbohydrate. It includes, let's see, 22 amino acids, 28 minerals, 11 enzymes, 14 fatty acids, and 11 carbohydrates. So it's really a complete nourishment, honey is. So we, you know, again, going back to if you're feeling under the weather, if you're feeling a little bit low energy, a little bit fatigued, just having a spoonful of honey is good. And that mix that I mentioned earlier, when you do garlic and ginger together, you can just take a spoonful of that with honey. It's also it's going to be that much more beneficial. It's going to give you a little bit extra energy boost. It's going to help your digestion. So that's a really good way to go. So again, we've already covered these three things that I'm sure a lot of you, most of you, have in your kitchen already. So I think I recently came across this this advice from somebody. It's like, if you start feeling, you know, like if you're not feeling well, if you start feeling a little bit or some of like these symptoms that are popping up that we hear of, stay calm, you know, take a few deep breaths and know that you have the support probably already in your kitchen. And if you don't, then I really highly recommend that you look into, you know, stocking your pantry with these things. They keep very easily. I mean, I couldn't say how long ginger keeps, because I go through it so quickly. But I mean, I usually get like something this size, and I'll have it for the week. You know, garlic, of course, can stay out of the fridge for a long time. But if these aren't already staples in your kitchen, I highly recommend that you start storing them, because, as I said, they can be your first aid sometimes. It can be a really powerful go-to for when we start feeling a little bit under the weather. So that is about honey. Now, I want to say a little bit something about zinc. We've heard a lot about zinc, especially these past few weeks, where this virus has been really at the forefront of everybody's mind, at the forefront of all the news reports, and you know, zinc is definitely a substance that is necessary for the immune system to work. I mean, zinc is necessary in a lot of our biochemistry. So a lot of systems in the body depend on zinc, but the immune system especially, and more so, if you think that you have a not so strong immunity. And yes, there are, of course, plenty of supplements, but as I said before, we always want to look at the whole food, the whole substance, and we always want to go to, you know, nature first, because let's not forget that nature really has already provided us with everything we need, right? Everything that our body was designed to need is already in nature. And that's really, it's so beautiful that we are so connected and dependent on each other, right? And there's so much in nature that we can discover as far as like how to support our body and our mind. So zinc is one of those things that is found naturally in a lot of foods. I'm going to tell you some of the vegetarian sources of zinc, because I'm vegetarian and I don't have any non-vegetarian sources to show you. But again, these are staples in my kitchen. I have not gone shopping since last week. So it was a really good sort of review for me to know that my kitchen is well stocked with the things that will support my body through this time. So some of the sources of zinc are legumes. So any kind of legume. I have brown lentils here and red lentils here, and I didn't bring them out, but I also have like every single colored lentil you can imagine. The moong dal, tur dal. I have chickpeas. I have other legumes like black beans, red beans, you name it. My pantry is definitely well stocked with legumes. So like any kind of legume is a good source of zinc, as well as whole grains. And you'll notice that these are things that are very highly recommended by Ayurveda. You know, Ayurveda encourages the use of legumes. It encourages the use of whole grains. And of course, that's, you know, that's, again, it's going back to the wisdom of nature. Another whole grain, although technically it's not really grain, but we classify it as a grain, it's quinoa. So quinoa is a very, very good source of zinc, as well as oats. So these are, you know, really good staples to have in your kitchen. Other sources of zinc that I found in my pantry are pumpkin seeds and everyone's favorite, or at least my favorite, chocolate. Chocolate is a great source of zinc. I'm going to have a piece right now. Chocolate also is a really good source of magnesium. So who needs supplements when you have chocolate, right? Delicious. All right. So these are just some of the things that I have found in my kitchen this morning. And all of these wonderful, wonderful natural supports for my immune system. So let's go ahead and talk about this tea. First, I have to give credit to where this tea is from. This tea was posted recently by a woman named Divya Alter. She's the author of this book, What to Eat for How You Feel. It's a beautiful book. It's one of my favorite Ayurvedic cookbooks. And Divya also is the owner, chef of an Ayurvedic restaurant in New York City called Divya's Kitchen. I can't remember what part of town it's in, but if the next time you're in New York City, which hopefully will be very soon, and you're interested in trying an Ayurvedic restaurant, I recommend that you look that up, Divya's Kitchen. So Divya recently posted a recipe for a very, very simple, but very medicinal tea. And the reason why I chose this tea for you today is because it has a lot of herbs, or has herbs that support the respiratory system. So I thought it was appropriate for us today. So the tea takes This is for 4 cups of water. So it'll serve about 3 to 4 cups of tea. So for 4 cups of water, it takes 3 tablespoons of fresh, grated fresh ginger. Now 3 tablespoons is a lot of heat. So again, depending on how much heat is appropriate for you, depending on how much heat you need, you know, you might want to regulate that. For me, those 3 tablespoons are fine. My predominant dosha is kapha, so I definitely, you know, do okay with a certain amount of heat. So I will do the 3 tablespoons of ginger. So we just grate the ginger again, how I showed you before. You just want to put the grated ginger into the water, and it also takes 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds. So fennel seeds, don't know, you probably can't really see in the camera, but fennel seeds, it's very aromatic. It smells and tastes like a little bit like licorice, but it is very, very good spice for the digestion. So this, you get the same effect as ginger, but it is not aggravating to pitta. So if you decide that you can't do too much ginger because of the heat, you can do a little bit more of the fennel because you'll get the same effect of it being a digestive tonic, but it won't overheat you. It won't aggravate pitta. So that's a good option. So far we have the ginger, the fennel seeds, and next is cardamom, which cardamom is my absolute favorite spice. If you've never had the opportunity to smell fresh cardamom, it is absolutely a divine smell. It's like, as soon as I open the jar, it fills the kitchen up with this incredibly aromatic smell. So the cardamom, there are these little pods, and if you break open the pod, you'll see these little seeds inside. You probably can't really see very well, but the inside of that pod are these little black seeds. So we don't usually eat the pod itself, but the seed is where all the flavor is. I use cardamom as a sweetener. So if I'm making a dessert or anything that requires a little bit of sweetener, I use cardamom. I don't even use honey. As much as I love honey, I don't really like it as a sweetener. But I find that cardamom really does the trick. So cardamom, of course, you know, again, it's going to be good for the digestion, and it really any spice it acts on the digestion. So any spice is going to be healing for the digestion. Some of them have more specific actions on the digestion. But the main reason why cardamom is interesting is because it's really good for reducing bloating and gas. So if you happen to have that kind of discomfort, you can actually just chew on the cardamom seeds, and it really relieves a lot of that those issues of gas and bloating. As a matter of fact, it can be something good to chew on right after your meal, especially if you're feeling heavy after your meal. So just have a little bit of the seeds afterwards. Now, the cardamom also acts on the lungs, so it kind of like flushes out any toxins, or what we call ama in Sanskrit. So things like mucus, you know, things like that that are normally what's found in the lungs. The cardamom seeds are good for flushing that out. So far, again, to review, in the tea, we have ginger, we have the fennel, we have the cardamom, and lastly, we have ajwain. So ajwain is not as common as fennel and cardamom. Fennel and cardamom, I think you can basically find them in just about any spice aisle. But ajwain is not as common outside of the Indian stores or the Asian stores. This also has an incredibly aromatic smell. In English, they are called, sometimes they're called celery seeds, although they have nothing to do with our celery. But the more common use, English use of this is carom, C-A-R-R-O-M. So ajwain seeds are also a powerful cleanser, and most importantly, they enhance the digestion, but they also function directly on the respiratory system. So again, you have these powerful herbs, the powerful spices, cardamom and ajwain, that work directly on the respiratory system as a very, very good support. So those are the ingredients for the tea. Again, as I said, super simple, very, very powerful, and really helpful at this time to just support our immunity, support our respiratory system, our lungs. And you can, so once you boil it, boil it for about 8 to 10 minutes. You can strain the seeds if you'd like. You can certainly keep them in the water if you'd like. That's totally up to you. You can chew them, no problem at all. And you can add to that either some fresh lemon, or you can add the honey if that's, if you regularly sweeten your tea with honey. I do want to say one very just quick thing about doing that. And remember what I said before about exposing the honey to heat. And when you do that, not only does it lose its medicinal properties, but what happens is that it does create ama. So it will create this toxic substance that over time is not good for the body. It's not good for the systems. It's not good for the channels of the body. So the recommendation is to not put honey in hot water. You should wait until it's cooling down. Warm is okay, but preferably just in like room temperature water. So if you've been doing that, then please consider sweetening your tea another way. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show you today. Again, as I said, I haven't gone shopping in a few days, and I was able to round up all of these things from my kitchen pantry. So this isn't a live video, but if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If you have any questions directly for me, you can reach out to me. My email is info@apurvawellness.com. Join us on Saturday for the last workshop in this series, and I hope to see you in person soon.